Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Georgiana.
And this is Wholehearted Loving, where we teach you simple tools for self-love and compassion to grow the muscles you need to be with big feelings, triggers, and overwhelming sensations in your body.
Whether you have active challenges in your life or relationships, or whether you're just here to learn to be kinder to yourself, we pull out all the little things that make life feel better, the things that give you a sense of hope and direction.
So if you're too hard on yourself or on others,
if you want to feel real, deep connection in your life and relationships,
even if you want to reprogram your inner critic while you're sleeping,
this is a great place to be.
So welcome, and we hope this episode brings you just the tidbit you needed today.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today, we're going to be giving you a tool we are calling 1 for 1. And this is a really simple action you can take to make any kind of change in your life in a way that doesn't feel like so much work. You can find self-reflection prompts for this episode and every episode on our Instagram at Wholehearted Loving. And you can learn more about how to practice with us live on our website at wholeheartedloving.com. Before we get started on the topic, we will do a body-based self-connection practice to connect with ourselves before each other and this podcast.
I would like a trumpet welcome.
Ooh, can I? I got no trumpet noise.
Maybe you can find one online when you edit.
I will trumpet edit. Yes.
I felt like very much like royalty is arriving.
Oh, like the heralding. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, like that.
Got you.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Body connection practice. Great. Okay. We're going to practice. Oh, actually, this is a great practice. Stephanie had suggested it and asked me if I would guide us in it. Did you?
Yes.
Did you? Did. Oh, you
relating
knew.
The topic and the practice. So
yes.
Yeah.
I'm just getting that now. I'm just getting how intentional Steph was in choosing this practice right at this moment. Great. Nice. Sometimes we're a bit slow in picking things up. It's okay. We're human.
Yeah.
Okay. So the practice is maybe first, I am noticing wanting to use my eyes to check out the space. So maybe seeing what your eyes get captivated by. And I'm using that word on purpose. Like, what captures your attention right now? And what is it like to have your attention captured by something? And then when you're ready, we're going to connect with body in this way, where we're starting to notice something in the body that doesn't feel super pleasant. So it could be something that's very loudly unpleasant for you right now, or just sort of quietly not great or noticeable. And just notice what it's like to scan for that. Maybe you don't have to scan at all. It's very noticeable. And notice what it's like to be with it. Just aware of it. You don't have to hang there long, so you can just hang there just for a brief noticing. But if you want to practice hanging for there a little bit longer to build capacity to be with some discomfort, that's okay. And then we're going to hop over to something that feels better or different. So looking for that, right? So we're practicing looking for what feels better or different. And hanging there for a moment. And if you wanted to, you could just switch back and forth between those two. Or you could find something else that doesn't feel super fantastic. And then find something that feels a little bit better or different. I notice it feels very nice when I get to orient to what feels better or different. Like, oh, I enjoy that even more now with some contrast. Neat.
And what feels better than what feels bad is not necessarily something that feels good, but you can find goodness inside it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Last episode, we talked a little bit about how we define things, right? How do you define for yourself what feels unpleasant or not good or better or different? Like, different could be like, my toes feel very cold. And my hands are cold, but they're less cold. And that's different. Right? And that feels interesting to notice. But it could also be like, my toes feel really cold, and that doesn't feel super great. And my breath feels very available. There's room for it, and that feels nice. And then I get to choose. Do I want to go back to my toes, or do I want to go back to my breath? Or do I want to go somewhere totally different? Right? So it's like a reminder. Like, I really loved Choose Your Own Adventure books as a kid. I would get so excited flipping the pages. So this is like a choose your own adventure of what do you want to be with in your body right now.
I like that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Gigi.
Mm-hmm. And like, just a reminder, like, it's not always best to be with what feels better, right?
Yeah.
That's not always the thing. Sometimes we need to feel what doesn't feel good because we need to know, hey, like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Or like, wow, I need to be aware that this needs my attention. And bringing my awareness to something that feels better leaves me more in that avoidant place.
Mm-hmm.
Or, holy crap, I recognize that feels really not good right now. And I need a little reprieve from it in order to be able to have capacity to do something about that thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to focus on something else that feels a little better or different.
Yeah. And I think letting the pendulum swing whatever way it needs to, I realize how in the past things felt so bad and I was so fortified against them that it was like, oh, have you got a bad thing? Just load it on. Like, I can take it all. And then realizing that, of course, I swung in the other direction of just desiring ease and flow and good feelings. And I really had to regrow and give attention to my ability to be with discomfort, because I was getting to the point of just wanting to avoid anything that was unpleasant, which is part of life. So hence I was avoiding life.
Yeah, right? Neat.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to intro this topic?
Yeah, 1 for 1. Well, maybe you should intro it, because you had this specific example, and then it's going to give rise to all kinds of other thoughts that we have.
Okay. So having a chat with, a client recently, and often we begin after our body practice with checking in with a win and growing that muscle to be aware of a win, to speak it out loud, to notice how it feels in the body. And this person was able to say there was a win, which has been a challenge sometimes. And we were just chatting about what it's like to recognize there's a win. Not even what the win is, but like, oh, there's a win. And they were telling me about what was happening for them, body and mind-wise, hanging with the win for a bit. And they said, very quickly, my mind goes to, but like, will that work next time? And then the feeling experience goes from momentarily excited to doom. And I was like, oh, that's great awareness to have, right? And to notice how fast that happens. And to notice that the doom and gloom was like what was before it was the mind shifting to, what about next time? What if it doesn't go as well next time, right? And so I don't know, I get pulled in certain ways just in the moment. And like this pull came to share the 1 for 1. Right. And so I said, are you open to like playing with this a little bit, trying something with it? And they were open. I said, what might it be like to just say the thing that we call it the yeah, but sometimes, right? That, oh, well, this is going really well. And yeah, but this, right? What if you just said the thing, right? Part of me worries about how it will be next time, right? And just give your worry thought a voice, one sentence. And then 1 for 1, give yourself a different thought, a more uplifting or encouraging or supportive or hopeful thought, something that contrasts, right? Are you open to doing that? And they were like, yeah, okay. A more hopeful thought is, it was possible this time, so maybe it could be possible again. And then that's it. Then you carry on with your day. That you're doing nothing more with that. All it is the practice of 1 for 1. If I'm going to let myself have one thought that's hard or less encouraging or less supportive or a little bit more stressful or a little bit more anxiety provoking or a little bit more nervous system dysregulating, can I, right after that, practice having a thought that feels more supportive, more helpful, more encouraging, different even, right? Yeah. Neutral even. And they really like that idea. They're like, oh, that's something I could do. That doesn't feel too big. I could do that. And they were realizing in the process of practicing that, they're growing a new muscle, a new pathway, because the old pathway is to have the yeah, but thought, the doom and gloom, and then another doom and gloom, and then another doom and gloom, and then another doom and gloom thought, right? Okay. And all of a sudden we're at 5 doom and glooms and we feel really crappy. Yeah. So I like the simplicity of 1 for 1. It doesn't say, stop having all those negative thoughts. They're not helping you, right? It says, have it. Just have it. Say it out loud. Scream it from the rooftops if you want to. Make a little dance with it too. Doesn't really matter. Just say the thing. Yeah. Let it be okay. And then right after that, choose a different thing to practice saying. Yeah. Right. And so here are some variations. Is that helpful if I share some variations of how you can play with this?
Sure.
Okay. Some people are really stuck on hard things that are happening right now. Yeah. Right? In their life. So I might say a hard thing that's happening right now is, I got to be with this for a moment, that I don't feel like I have enough time to get my house in a sort of way that feels good consistently. That's a hard thing for me. Something that feels that I feel like I'm doing well and is going sort of easily in my life is getting back on track with going to the gym. Right? So mentioning one thing that's hard right now in your life and one thing that's less hard or easier. Right? Yeah. So we're here playing with contrast, holding duality. Right? Creating a new pathway away from circling back to the one thing we tend to focus on.
Yeah. And it's a pathway that's genuinely accessible because we're not trying to shut down whole parts of ourselves or take a leap that's too much of a leap. We can't say, oh, well, this worry that I've got shouldn't be a worry. I shouldn't be worried about this. So now I feel better. It's still going to be there. So contributing something to balance it is an easier path.
Yes. Right. And notice that the thing we're adding on next doesn't have to be this gigantic, huge thing, right? I'm not going to the gym yet as much as I was before and as much as I'd like to, but it's starting to get better. Like I'm starting to bring it back into my life in a way that feels good. And I just want to recognize that, right? Sure. That's a different kind of thought than focusing on what's hard right now. And I'm not saying it's a better thought, it's just a different thought. And it will create a different impact, a different feeling impact, and a different overall life impact when we practice the 1 for 1 more often than the 5 and then 5 and 5 more of the hard thought, right? Which is mostly what we sort of have learned to do. Another one I think we see often is the voice of the inner critic, right? Oh, I suck at that, or I'm terrible at that, or like this thing has been so hard for me, like it's never going to change. We all have that voice come in sometimes. Sometimes it's more familiar for others than for other people. Sometimes it's harsher than other people's inner critics. It's a variety, but letting that be okay. Again, we can't just shut down our inner critic in one go, right? That really isn't feasible or likely. What if we could just say, right now, my inner critic has this thought, right? Right now, my inner critic says, man, I suck at cleaning my house, right? For example, or sometimes my inner critic has this thought of, man, I suck at cleaning my house. And then moving along, I like to envision this visual. This visual has helped me a lot in the past of being kindly ushered to somewhere more pleasant.
Yeah.
Right? Just energetically, someone who like loves and cares about you just puts their hand gently on your back and sort of ushers you to a more pleasant place for a little reprieve. And I might say then my inner cheerleader wants to remind me, right, that I put away my jeans today. Right? So it could be something related, or it could be my inner cheerleader wants to remind me that, you know, I've been pretty good at doing the dishes lately. Right? And this is still sort of maybe same realm, but it could also be totally different. My inner cheerleader wants to remind me that, you know, it's felt really good to connect with friends again lately. And I've been like putting the effort in my area of friendships.
Yeah. Or the inner critic, my inner cheerleader just noticed that my inner critic chimed in and she wants to be here too.
Yes. Right?
Super simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another example is, excuse me, for those of us who are familiar with ruminating, which my gosh, I was good at it before. I noticed that I just really don't hang out there very often now. I think just so much rewiring has happened that it's not a pleasant place to be. Like, I don't want to go spend time ruminating about things. But it took me some practice to grow a new pathway. And this is one of the ways that you can do that. Many people that I talk to who are self-professed great ruminators could easily ruminate for 5 minutes about something. About a problem, about an ex, about a current relationship, about what should I do if, right? What's going to happen? And so let that be there. Ruminate. I say set a timer. Choose the time. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Do the 1 for 1. Let yourself ruminate as much as you want for 5 minutes. And then set the timer again for 5 minutes. So this is what I like. Thinking about anything that's more pleasant or neutral. And I was talking to a client, I'm like, think about ponies and unicorns if that's what does it for you. I don't really care. Just something different.
This is why we're all addicted to scrolling through dog and cat and baby goat videos on our phones. Mm-hmm. That's our pleasant rumination time, but it's unfortunately pretty unconscious.
Yes. So bring some consciousness to that, right? If you're like looking at baby goats or sending baby goats, take a moment to notice how it feels inside to discover the latest baby goat video. And take a moment to notice the excitement and how it shows up in your body when you're like, oh, I'm going to send that to whoever you're going to send it to. Right? There's something happening there. So if we can bring some presence to, oh, I'm trying to regulate myself right now. I'm trying to like have a nicer feeling experience right now. Yay me.
Yeah.
Right? Then all of a sudden it's not as mindless. Yeah. It's not mindless. right? And it actually goes to help build capacity to be with things that are harder. But you could also scroll a gazillion goat videos and not get any or very little extra capacity from it, just because we're doing it mindlessly. Yeah. Instead of just having a moment of feeling, how does it feel? Right? Or just recognizing, I'm looking at goats right now because it's feeling sort of nice to look at goats right now. And I want to help my body feel a little bit better at the end of the day.
Attention is intention, and it's totally powerful and changes what you're doing. Even you can be doing the very same activities as you always do, but if you're giving it some attention and intention, then it's going to change the meaning for you and the story that results.
Yes, and the energetics of it, right? Like, even if you don't want to pay attention to the internal sensations of looking at goats, can you feel your phone in your hand?
Yeah.
When you're doing it? Or can you feel your butt on the seat? I'm usually in bed when I scroll. But like, I'll just practice feeling my body on the bed. Just for 1 second. Not the whole time. Not the whole goat video. I mean, you could try doing it for the whole goat video. But yeah, just bringing a little bit more intention, awareness. So yeah, 5 minutes of something. Think about the hard thing as much as you want. And then 5 minutes of something a little bit more pleasant.
Yeah.
Right. I have a client who says, gosh, I feel addicted to these certain kind of videos on YouTube, and I don't actually feel that they're very helpful for my life. And I think, we started with, well, what if we don't have to take that away yet? Right? You can move towards that, but like, what if for every video like that you feel like doesn't contribute to your life, you watch a different video where you feel like you're learning something, or it motivates or inspires you or helps you remember like what's important to you in your life? What would it be like to play with that?
Yeah.
Right. And if you wanted to watch another one of the videos that you claim to like not be super helpful for you, do it again. Do another 1 for 1. Right. And you could either do 1 for 1, or you could do it as a time thing, right? Whatever you feel like is easiest for you. Yeah.
I really like this. This reminds me of a time when you could say I was an alcoholic. And so this example is going to involve alcohol.
Okay.
And my follow-up example also involves alcohol. It was this very fit woman who used to go to this bar that I used to go to when I was in my early 20s. And she realized that she didn't like the feeling. She'd started running in the mornings, and she didn't like the feeling of having a hangover in the mornings. But she also, and so when she presented this information, I mean, I was like, first of all, wait a minute, you run in the morning after drinking? Like, blew my mind that's even possible. And then her response to herself was so self-compassionate. I'd never seen anything like it. She's like, but I love drinking, so I'm not going to stop. So I'm just going to make sure that for every drink I have, I also drink a glass of water.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. Right?
Yeah. Right. That it's got to be better in all sorts of ways than just having another glass of alcohol.
Yeah. Or saying I have to stop drinking if I want to do X, Y, or Z.
Yes. And most people, if they do that, it's coming from a shaming place. It's coming from my habit. It's like coming from this white knuckle place.
Yeah.
And they're either going to be able to do that for a short period of time, and then eventually not going to be able to do it anymore. And then most likely their strong inner critic's going to come out and shame themselves for it.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I don't really see that that's a sustainable way to make change and keep change, right?
Yeah, right. And there are so many ways we can frame this, like just knowing that it's possible to reframe things for ourselves and approach things in a way that will make them possible for us. I also think about dieting and trying to cut out a bunch of foods that you love. And then the opposite approach, which is don't cut out anything, but add whatever it is, fiber or water or whatever, and just watch the ripple effect,
Totally. Right. So this is that concept of like adding instead of taking away something that we brought into our lives to bring us some element of comfort. to help us cope with whatever is going on. Or it's just been conditioned into us that this is the way of being, right? Why are we going to try to be so mean to ourselves to try to get rid of it immediately without replacing it with something that serves the same purpose? When we could just leave it, just let it be. Just let it be and add something small in that's different or better or more supportive, right?
Yeah.
I have found that in my process of all the shifts that I've made in my life, this has been the consistently been the way that actually works.
Yeah. Bite-sizing.
Bite-size, adding bite-size things that are supportive, right?
Yeah. And feeling and intention. Can I quickly give you my second alcohol-related example?
Yes.
It totally follows, because the advice I gave this woman was to do the 1-for-1 with the water and drink. She's been talking a lot about stopping drinking. She doesn't drink a huge amount, but she drinks a little bit every day. And she just thought, well, I want to go till the end of February without having a drink. And then the next sentence seems to be, to prove to my husband that I can. It's like, oh, okay, so is that the motivation, or do you actually not want to drink? And to give my liver a break. And then it'll be some joke about liver's got to get in shape because I'm about to give it a huge dose of booze on March 1st kind of thing. And so I kind of pulled this apart, and it was like, okay, well, it sounds like proving this to your husband is an important piece. And she's like, yeah, it is. But we've done that now. He sees that it's true. I don't need a drink. I feel fine. Okay. And then the next piece seems to be concern for your liver, but I'm also hearing that you really want to keep drinking and you're looking forward to March 1st. So is there some way that you could support all of these things? Like the first thing on your list, sounds like you've accomplished that. Congratulations. And could you have 1 glass of water for every drink? Or a piece of celery, or look into what would support your liver in a way that would feel good for you so that you can actually proceed and accomplish your various goals.
Yes. Right. It's big. And how do we differentiate? We're not talking about let's promote drinking. It's not about that. It's just, let's face the reality that is currently one of the tools and strategies that you're using to regulate your system. And it happens to be one that also has some effects on you that are more harmful, right? That's just the way it is. But it's probably unlikely you're going to stop completely right away. So even if it I like what you're saying in that hey, this is a coping strategy that causes some harm to your health. Could you, after that drink or during that drink, choose a strategy that feels pleasant for you, regulating for you, that is more of a positive contribution to your health, right? Or even neutral.
Yeah.
And what's neat about that is it also puts us in a position to start exploring and getting to know what else could give me a good feeling that maybe doesn't bring as much harm to other areas of my life or my body or whatever, right? A lot of us who have, who are, living with addiction or just in old patterns of doing things to help us feel better. Part of the problem is we haven't been encouraged or invited or supported to or made aware of what it is we were trying to do with this thing that we do, which is I'm trying to regulate my system. The good news is there's many, many ways to regulate a system. And there's many of them that fall under the category of less harmful for myself and my life and the people in my life. Right? So what might it be like to just give yourself some time and space and permission to explore what some of those might be? Right? Yeah. And when you have choice, that's when you feel like you have more agency and feel more empowered in your life of, oh, I'm not a horrible person for drinking, right? I might need to make some, repairs with people for like the impacts of my drinking, but I'm not a horrible person for drinking. I'm trying to regulate myself. I'm trying to be with something that feels hard, right? What else could help me be with something that feels hard? Yeah. Can I share a few more?
Sure.
One for one in the area of unknowns. I think we work with a lot of people who worry about stuff they don't know the answer to. What's going to happen in my relationship? Should I stay? Should I not? Right? So just naming that. Something that is an unknown right now for me is whether I should stay in this relationship. Right? Something that I do know is, and it could be anything. It could be about this relationship. It can be just something that I know is I have a roof over my head. Could be unrelated. But it's just like tapping into like there are things that I know also. And how does it feel to give a little moment to what I do know? Right? And it could be, something that is an unknown right now is whether I'm staying in this relationship. Something that I know is I have an excellent support network. And whatever happens with this relationship, I will be supported. Right? I remember there was a time when I was going through the unknown and quite emotional because I was debating whether I should leave my job. And I felt a deep loyalty to my team, to clients. It was a job that gave me a lot of stability that I loved, that I was good at. But there were elements of it that weren't working anymore, right? And my unknown was like, it was this, should I leave? Should I go? Will I be okay? Like, what if like private practice like doesn't work out for me, or like it takes some time before, I get on my feet or whatever. So that was the unknown. So just naming that fear. And then I was talking to a girlfriend about it. And she said, well, none of your friends are going to let you and your kids live on the street. And I was like, that's very true. That is a known. I know that to be true. Right? None of my friends will let me and my kids live on the street. And then all of a sudden I felt better. I'm like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Right? Another one that I notice with people is feeling like they have to make a decision right away. Right? Have to know the answer right away. Right? So maybe it's to name, I feel like I need to know the answer right away. And I'm reminding myself that this is not an emergency. Right? So like the contrast, it doesn't make, you don't know the answer any sooner. Well, maybe you actually do. Often you do know, I find, no sooner when you start taking the pressure off of yourself.
Yes.
Right? But like, it doesn't solve your problem right away, but it gives you like a little bit of reprieve of, oh, right, it's not an emergency.
Yeah. Diffusing the bomb.
Yeah. This one is big for me because I was sort of raised with like, your to-do list rules you. And you just need to get stuff done. So sometimes, I might stress over or highlight or dwell on, or like I've worked with people who have that tendency of really just orienting to what's not done yet.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So something that's not done is clearing out my closets. Right? Something that is done is the dishes today.
Yes.
Right? Or something I haven't done today is reply to my emails. Something that I have done today, I'm like, what have I done today? I have fed myself. Right? I'm like, oh, that feels a little better. One for one. That's all. Simple, quick.
Yeah.
Simple, quick, creates the new pathway starts laying down a new pathway that our system realizes I don't have to just stay on the thing that's hard. I will not die. You know, my life carries on, and I might feel just a touch better or a lot better when I give some time and attention to like, what else?
Yeah.
And what else?
This feels like sort of a conscious reframing of, I think, a defensiveness that comes really naturally to people, where we're like, oh, well, you know, often it's an example of talking about other people. So, you know, they did this horrible, painful thing, but I know they mean well, and I know this other good thing, or, you know, I've done some difficult thing in my life, and then the yeah buts come in. We have this natural facility to do it, and we do it often automatically, but so just giving some attention to that and doing it on purpose will change it completely.
Yes. Doing it on purpose and doing it a little bit more slowly. Like being with each one for a moment.
Yeah.
Right? If we're like, oh, my parents like really weren't able to give me what I needed when I grew up. Oh, and they did their best. Well, unfortunately, all of a sudden, you've sort of lost the gems in both.
Yeah. Totally.
Right? So, like, if I just sat for a moment with, my parents weren't able to give me everything I needed. I mean, just feeling that for a moment. Maybe there's some grief there. Maybe there's some sense of validation of like, yeah, that is true. Right? And my parents did their best. Like, oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Or just like, I'm trying to do my best. Right? And all of a sudden I can feel a little bit more of a softening. So I get to like learn to grow my capacity to be with both truths. Whereas if I just go boom, 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 and it's from this more habitual place or protective mechanism, I get sort of lost out on both pieces.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it just takes a little bit to hang with it. You don't have to hang with it for a long time.
I like that. Thank you, Gigi.
Yeah.
Have you got a closing practice in mind?
Yep. Sit in a way that doesn't feel super great.
Done.
Let me see. I'm like, how would I do that even? Like, I'm so oriented to sitting in what feels good. I don't even know right now. Like, I'd have to like put my leg behind my head or something.
The amount of body contortion that I often have to do to feel really good is often impractical. So,
right. Okay. So it might not be even sit in a way that doesn't feel good. Just sit. Right. And then sit in a way that would feel better.
Let's get my leg up there.
And notice, right? Notice the breath that might change. Or notice how that feels, or a smile that might come across your face.
It's much better.
That didn't take very long.
Sometimes I wonder if I make myself uncomfortable unconsciously on purpose so I can enjoy the contrast of becoming comfortable later.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. I like that you mentioned contrast, because this is what we're also developing here, an awareness on a body level, if you take it there, on what contrast feels like. Right? And once you have more awareness of like, oh, maybe it feels a little better to hang in that other side, that we start hanging there more often. I think you said that, right? When I brought up this topic as an idea to talk about this, didn't you say, oh, I just find myself doing that more often these days, more easily?
Yeah, it comes more naturally. I'll notice, oh, I'm in some thought pattern that doesn't feel good. Choice point. Let's choose a new adventure.
Yeah. I'm doing that so much more now. I notice that too. I think that's why I've found, like, if someone were to be able to track this for me, they would note that I don't actually spend very much time ruminating anymore, which I used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's because, like, I started feeling the contrast of, like, what it feels like to, like, think of something more pleasant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that feeling feels way better.
It feels so much better. Yeah.
Right?
And it's
I'm like,
muscle
obviously,
you can grow.
yes. And obviously, I'm not saying that this is like the only solution or the solution or the fix all for any kind of ruminating or distress you experience. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't hurt us to orient for a moment to something that's better or different.
Yeah. True that.
And that's what we're learning, because for some of us, we learned if I take my eye off of the problem, if I stop being so hyper vigilant about what could go wrong, there actually is danger. Like, some of us actually lived that experience. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense that we created a habitual pattern of staying purely focused on what's bad or could go wrong. Right? And so the body doesn't actually feel safe to look at what's better or different. And so we're slowly trying to grow our nervous system capacity to just go there a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really important area for developing self-trust too, as well. Like, I had to really recognize a lot of the things that I was anxious and fretful about. I came to realize I would solve that problem when the problem actually arrived. I came to trust my own resourcefulness. And I think it's equally important to trust our self-protection and reflex systems that we've developed, like we'll flinch if needed. Like, the subconscious is programmed and probably doesn't need that much more attention, and certainly not conscious fretting and attention. Even when there is danger, if you're trained in that way, you're trained. The new training needs to come from somewhere else that's more compassionate and feels better, if that's the way you want to feel in your life.
Yes. And, like, I want to highlight too, when you do your 1-for-1 and then you feel the pull body-wise, or you just want to, or it's like compulsive to go back to a worry thought, a hard thought, or whatever, just let it happen. Go. And then do the loop again. Do another 1-for-1 and do another 1-for-1. And then maybe you're like, okay, that's enough for today, enough practice. And then if you want to hang the rest of the day ruminating, do that. But you've had 3 passes at something different, like laying the ground. Like, I think someone said, like a new pathway. It's sort of like your old pathway is so worn. When you think of a walking trail, right? So many people have walked it. The trail is just apparent and obvious and easy. And then there's like, do you want to bushwhack? Right. And I really loved, I don't know why, I had a childlike fascination with the weed whacker. And I just think, like, that maybe it's because it comes with like a smell of fresh grass, and maybe I was fascinated that some tiny piece of thin plastic could like make all that grass go away. I don't really know, but or maybe it was like as a kid liking to hang out with my dad when he was in the yard. I don't really know. But like, when I think of us growing new pathways, I think of this, of like, we're taking up the weed whacker and like creating a little bit of a new path. Yeah. And like, maybe the weed whacker analogy is like a little bit far away. Maybe it's just like tiny art scissors at first, right? Yeah. We don't have the weed whacker yet.
Children's safety scissors.
Children's safety scissors, right?
They won't cut the grass, but you're learning the action.
Yeah, right? And slowly, maybe you graduate from children's scissors, right? Like preschool plastic ones to kindergarten, like little metal ones, and the next ones and the next ones. And eventually there's access to a weed whacker.
Yeah. I like this. It's a good analogy. Thank you, Gigi.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Is that it for today?
That's it for today. That's it for today.
Well, thank you guys for being with us. As always, please do like, follow, and subscribe. And if anything we've said here today has been helpful for you, please share with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.